Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
Listen, you can walk outside. I can't guarantee your safety. You get in your car. I can't guarantee safety, but I have to look at the risk in this system, and then we have to make decisions based on that risk and based on that pressure.
I will be proactive in the work that I do, and I think that is because of the responsibility I hold to 8.5 million people of being their mayor. It is important that you are open to working with anyone, no matter what disagreements you may have. And I've said this when it pertains to President Trump, that if President Trump wants to speak about lowering the cost of living or delivering cheaper groceries like he ran on, I'm there to have that conversation. The distinction will be that previous administrations have looked to have that conversation to the benefit of themselves and the expense of the people that we look to serve.
Understood, but do you plan to call President Trump?
I will be reaching out to the White House and as we prepare to actually take office, because this is a relationship that will be critical to the success of the city.
So it wasn't just a hypothetical scenario on our debate stage.
No.
You're actually going to call him. What will you say?
Well, I'll say that I'm here to work for the benefit of everyone that calls the city home, and that wherever there is a possibility for working together towards that end, I'm ready. And if it's to the expense of those New Yorkers, I will.
On the terrorist list. At one point, a $10 million reward had been placed on his head, and now he is at the White House. Syrian President Ahmed Shara became the first Syrian leader to visit the White House. During the 90-minute Trump-Shara meeting, sanctions, regional stability, and Syria's reconstruction were discussed. The U.S. suspended sanctions on Syria under the Caesar Act for 180 days and opened the way for economic cooperation. Following the meeting, Shara greeted Syrians gathered outside the White House. U.S. President Trump described his talks with Shara as very positive and constructive, emphasizing his desire to see Syria develop.
He gets along very well with Turkey, with President Erdogan, who's a great leader. Erdogan's a great leader and very much in favor of what's happening in Syria. We have to make Syria work. Syria is a big part of the Middle East.
This visit has become a symbol of a new era in U.S.-Syria relations and a potential turning point in the Middle East.
This is men's fragrance. Yeah. This is no. It's the best fragrance. Come here, I have one here, sir. Okay. So what we'll do is just take that, Joe, put it in, and then the other one is for your wife. How many wives? You guys, I never know, right? I never know.
أنا أرسلت له هدايا فيها شيء أثري قديم. أول أبجدية صارت في لعبة التاريخ. أول ختم أيضا صار في التاريخ. أول نوتة موسيقية أيضا.
All of them were in Syria.
أول تعريف جغرافية أيضا صارت في العالم.
That was made in the world.
Very good.
هي نسخة عن أشياء أثرية موجودة من أصولها في سلسلة الهدية للسيدة الأولى. كم زوجة؟
Very good. Right now, one. Black colleges and universities would all be out of business. You would have a system of colleges and universities.
So we're dependent on China to keep our university system going?
But I think it's good to have. I actually think it's good to have outside countries. Look, I want to be able to get along with the world.
They're not the French. They're the Chinese. They spy on us. They steal our intellectual property.
What, do you think the French are better?
Yeah.
I mean, really? I don't know. I'll tell you, I'm not so sure. We've had a lot of problems with the French, where we get taxed very unfairly on our technology, where, you know, they put 25% taxes on American products.
B visa thing will not be a big priority for your administration, because if you want to raise wages for American workers, you can't flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of foreign workers.
You also do have to bring in talent. When
we have plenty of talented people here.
No, you don't.
We don't have talented people here?
No, you don't have. You don't have certain talents, and people have to learn. You can't take people off an unemployment line and say, I'm going to put you into a factory where we're going to make missiles, or I'm going to put you.
How did we ever do it before?
Welcome back to the SCIF. I want you to think back deep in your distant past and see if you can remember a thing called America First, because I think we've forgotten what that is. Just amazing. You had the Sunni terrorists who enjoyed chopping off heads in the White House. You've got President Trump saying Americans don't have enough talent and we have to import Chinese in order to survive. You've got the head of the DOT or Duffy saying that air travel, you can't guarantee safety. And in the beginning of the cold open, the people running in and destroying that factory and burning all the trucks, those weren't terrorists. Those were Israelis destroying air. Amazing conference with Children's Health Defense that we sponsored in Austin, Texas, and very happy about that. Went extremely well. We had a lot of good feedback. Want to say hello to the crew in the chat. You're cleared hot, already going. Love that. Thank you very much. Please support whatfinger.com. Give them a check a few times a day after cdm.press, of course, several times a day. And we are in the first week in December, we'll be in Washington, D.C. We'll have to run a few days of reruns because I will be at the Pentagon getting my indoctrination training as a new member of the Pentagon Press Corps first week in December, at least the first few days. So stay with us on that. A lot going on. What you didn't hear coming out of the White House this week is, wow, those Christians in the Middle East, we really need to support them. The way forward in the Middle East is Christianity. You didn't hear that. You heard the way forward is Sunni Islam. And this is obviously being supported by, wow, did I just lose my connection? Not sure what happened there. Tom, can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Huh. That's very, very weird, folks. Okay, I'm back. I'm not sure what happened there, but anyway, you didn't hear anything about Christianity coming out of the White House. You've got Trump supporting Turkey, and Turkey is becoming a global power. We're going to discuss that in the meeting, in the show today, and what's going on in the Middle East with Turkey and the Sunni Muslims. And obviously, it's also tied into the Gulf states, the Sunni Gulf states, which have a lot of money. So I think that's what's all behind this. We have a powerful show today. I've got Tom Teague. We're going to delve into financial markets, really dig into what's happening there, because there's a lot you need to know about as we move into this fourth turning. It's weeks and weeks further into this, and where are we going with this? And then we've got a treat at the top of the hour at 11. We've got Patrick Byrne to talk about our elections. And in the second half of that hour, we've got John Lauro, former Trump attorney, to talk about religious freedom. A lot going on, a lot to talk about. Let's do the mission brief. Today is November 12th, I believe. This is your mission brief. I'm your host, Todd Wood. Trump wants massive U.S. base in Gaza with thousands of troops, mostly American, significant American forces on the border with Gaza in the war zone to help enforce the peace deal. Is that a good idea or not? Trump says Americans not talented enough. Got to bring in more migrants. Turkey is rising in the Levant. Sunni Islam is rising in the Levant. I just got a text from my the head of my Connecticut paper who said there's a mosques going in Stamford, Connecticut, crypto mosques in different hotels and stuff that there are concealing. So that'll be a story likely on Connecticut Sentinel going forward. U.S. Army to stop buying manned helicopters. Man, you know I'm old. I knew I was old when they put the aircraft I flew on a stick in a museum, but now they're not even buying any more manned helicopters, possibly in the U.S. Army. Just shocking. And the BBC leadership is booted for false reporting. That's way overdue. We've got a great show for you today. Stay tuned. We'll be right back on the SCIF. The bird flu is circulating. We're getting more and more press, more fear mongering, more warnings about this. First, let's start with that. What say you on?
Well, what I say is it specifically is not circulating. It's in animals. There's one human, maybe two transmissions, no human-to-human transmission. And stand by, everybody. If there is some sort of sudden human-to-human transmission, you should immediately be suspicious that gain of function was involved with that. Just the fact that they're taking an animal virus and going nuts on it in the press and talking about it all the time, that to me leads me to believe that they have concerns that somebody is doing something with that virus, because this would not happen naturally, in my opinion.
Our world is changing rapidly. Many crucial systems we depend upon are collapsing. And the most important system that is failing is the food supply.
Mr. President, this Council is more than aware of the multiple challenges and threats the world is facing today. But the threat of famine, people starving slowly to death, must be a red line.
These food prices are going to keep going up and up, and they're going to keep feeding excuse after excuse, narrative after narrative.
Yeah,
you're going to have to get off that treadmill and start getting more autonomous with your own food growing.
You want to make sure that you can eat, because frankly, food is the biggest issue as we are going through these transitions.
But amidst the chaos, there is a path to resilience. Marjorie Wildcraft is the female leader of the survival and preparedness movement. Marjorie has taught millions of people how to grow an abundance of food in a grid-down situation, even if you have no experience, are older, or out of shape.
I've spent decades finding the fastest, easiest, and funnest ways for the average person to be able to grow a lot of food. I've created a step-by-step process that's so simple that even kids to elders have been using it in order to grow a lot of their own food. And you can too, even if you have no experience, you're older, or you're out of shape.
Growing your own food is like printing your own money. Get started today.
Welcome back to the SCIF. I want to give a shout out to the wellness company, twc.health/CDM, promo code CDM. And I keep dropping. I'm not sure what is going on here. I'm not sure what's going on there, guys. Got some interference in our signal or something happening today. But twc.health/CDM, promo code CDM for 10% off. Here is something, new product there, Mars product, which is testosterone support. I had a doctor talk to me recently about a lot of the negative side effects testosterone is giving men, the shots, but maybe try this. This is a natural way to boost your testosterone at TWC, the wellness company, called Mars. This is their emergency kits, the standard stuff that they put out. I just used my travel kit on the road when I was traveling a lot. Take this with me everywhere we go. This is the spike support. So a lot going on at the wellness company, the weight loss, the parasite cleanses, all of that. So check it out, twc.health/CDM. Promo code CDM, you get 10% off. All right, I'm going to bring in Tom Teague now. Tom, how you doing, man? I got something going on. I'm cutting in and out here, but what do you want to talk about today? What's going on in the financial markets?
Well, one of the big stories has been Michael Burry, who is the big short guy, who made a fortune being short mortgages and long CDS during the GFC. He's come out this week or actually last week, and said that he was short. I think it's Palantir and NVIDIA. He believes the AI thing is a bubble. And one of his thesis that sort of came out this week is he thinks that these AI companies are running their depreciation, these hyperscalers, like the likes of Google, guys like this, are running their depreciation schedules on the data centers over like 5 years. And his point is that it's massively overstating their earnings per share, because obviously depreciation, the steeper it is, the more that it affects your earnings. I think that's an interesting thing to say. But if you delve into it a little bit, what you figure out is that there's chips on the market that were introduced by NVIDIA, like the A100, that is 5 years old. They came out between 2020 and 2023, and they're still in operation. And they're trading the secondary market for these things now, which you can see, it's an observable market, is like between 30 and 60 cents on the dollar from where they.
So there's a market for chips, like a tradable market?
Absolutely, for secondary chips. And yesterday, CoreWeave came out with earnings and the stock got pounded. I think it was down 17% because they guided down in their revenues. But, there's a lot of people that are trying to call the top in this AI stuff. And, there's definitely going to be that point. I personally don't think we're there now. JP Morgan put out a paper over the weekend about the AI and the incredible build that's going to come out. And I think that it's probably we're in the early part of it. The amount of data centers that are going to be built the demand is absolutely huge. So one thing CoreWeave was saying in their earnings yesterday was they had a guy or a client who renewed a lease at 5% of what the lease was prior to that. So that's using old technology, old chips. There's that much demand. So I think that it's misguided. And the other thing is people tend to look at cash flows on companies. More sophisticated investors look at cash flows as opposed to earnings. And if you have high earnings because you're using a 5-year depreciation and poor cash flows, that's a red flag. So the market's going to catch on to that. So I think he's just early, and I think he's wrong. I think this AI build is going to be something that goes on for years, at least for the next 3 or 4 years. And it's going to be like a major driver of growth in this country. And I think there's generally a shortage of chips. So trying to spook the market into thinking that we're in some kind of crazy bubble right now, I think it's wrong. And there is an observable market, so you can see what the demand is.
So I have to remember back to my CFA days, but what's the normal depreciation schedule, like 2 to 3 years?
Well, now in Trump's administration, I think some stuff you can do it in 1 year. They change those taxes, but the idea behind it is you're meant to have a depreciation schedule that shows the usage of your equipment. So if you have the valuable life of the equipment is 5 years, you need to have your depreciation schedule near that. And one of the things that people were criticizing CoreWeave yesterday was that they're using like a 10-year depreciation schedule on their data centers, but most of their leases, like the average lease, the weighted average lease is around 11 years. So it's not like accounting fraud or something crazy like that. There's to it. And I just think there's a lot of guys out there that are short sellers. I don't think Burry necessarily could be considered one of those guys, but they like to start a lot of rumors about things. And it's interesting now that we are in the AI age, how easy it is for normal people to check that. I can basically go and tell you where markets are and where things are trading, and it can do a lot of research for you. So they're going to have a tougher time trying to hoodwink the investor base that companies are in bad shape with their exaggerations. So I think that it's an interesting thing.
So what about, I'm old enough to remember the Y2K thing when I was on the street, and a huge bubble, and it popped, big league, as they say.
Yeah.
So you don't think AI is in that vein of
Well, I think we're too early for it, because if you look at the companies that are doing most of the investment, they have monster cash flow and they're all monopolies. I mean, look at the Magnificent Seven, they're all monopolies. They're all global tech monopolies, and they have monster cash flows. If you go back to looking at, what happened in 2000, a lot of this stuff was just like, there is no earnings. There is no, the revenues haven't yet gotten here. So it was sort of like investing on where you thought something would be. I mean, I think you could draw that same conclusion with some of the, the nuclear companies, or some of the what do you call it?
The reactor stuff?
No, well, the nuclear reactor companies, they have very little revenues, and the quantum computing companies, you could look at it the same way, right? It's all sort of like back-ended and it's speculative, but a lot of these companies that are doing the investment right now in AI and building these data centers are legitimate tech companies with huge earnings that don't have astronomically high PEs. So I think there is a difference. And I think, maybe we get there at some point, but I personally don't think we're there now. And, you can see what AI is doing and growing and how it's impacting businesses. And it's so disruptive. I mean, we're seeing AI already affecting job markets in certain industries where, they're cutting jobs because people are using AI. Coca-Cola did a commercial last week where they basically used AI instead of using like a regular advertising company that they'd done years before for Christmas. And you can't really tell a difference. That's a lot cheaper.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I was trying to find it here, but I can't find it. And I don't remember where it was. It was like Arizona or Texas, where one of these big data centers was like empty and not being rented. Do you think on the real estate side there's an overbuild, or?
Well, that's the next interesting point. The constraints that are out there are land and energy, right? And my whole conspiracy opinion about climate change was that it was an excuse to move industrial jobs and manufacturing jobs overseas.
Yes.
You tell people that all these plants are hurting the environment and we need to clean it up. So you move everything to China, where they're basically building, 3 coal plants a month, and and the profit margins expand for the, the elite corporate, people. And so you can drive climate change to justify that. Otherwise, people would have complained, right? Now, I think you go back the other way, because the big money obviously is going to be in AI. And you had Bill Gates come back and basically say, well, we're not going to all burn to a crisp from climate change. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but I think you're going to see like a complete reversal of the whole climate change narrative of CO2 and all this stuff, because countries that don't burn fossil fuels, coal, nuclear, whatever it is, to generate power are going to be left in the dark in terms of the
like
AI.
Germany and the UK.
Yeah, completely. And that's gonna hold them back or potentially destroy their economies completely in an AI driven world. They don't have enough energy. So what do? They change the narrative and say, well, actually maybe we're all gonna freeze to death now, so we need more CO2.
Have you seen anything
space?
Have you seen anything on the Russian side of the AI war? Do they have any skin in this game, building these data centers, et cetera? Do you know?
I think that I looked at the JP Morgan report, and I think the rest of the world is way behind us. I think China and the US are the ones that are really kind of focusing on it. And I think what will end up happening is everyone will sort of, once it gets going, everyone will make that adaptation and then start building them in their countries and try to catch up. I don't have any sense where Russia is on this. And I ask myself the same question. I don't get a sense. Maybe
you don't hear anything. I mean, you hear them developing a lot of weapons technology, but you don't hear about AI, which is interesting because they got a lot of tech pros over there.
Yeah, they do. And I'm sure there's definitely some kind of like, effort going on, because it's going to change the way that everyone lives. Our economy is so service oriented that, it's really going to be very impactful and disruptive and also, productive. I mean, I think our productivity is going to go through the roof.
Yeah.
And it's just a big question of like, how quickly that happens. And a lot of times throughout history, you've had major social unrest by the fact that you lay off so many people in such a short period of time. And I think we have to be, aware of that. And we have to put some safeguards in place to make sure it doesn't happen too quickly. But I think in the long term, it's going to be a huge benefit for our society.
Let me ask you this. I saw an article that JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, is maybe being investigated over being involved against Trump and the Russia hoax, as in debanking people and doing stuff like that. Have you heard anything about that?
I definitely am aware that a lot of people were debanked. I definitely am
including
aware.
us.
Yeah. These are like, again, these are kind of like Soviet style tricks of undermining people, going around the system, banishing people, deplatforming people, and it goes on all the time. And it's right out of the freaking Bolshevik handbook. And I think, Elizabeth Warren has a lot of questions she should be answering because she was on the banking committee and she was, exhorting banks to do that. She was behind a lot of it. A lot of the guys that were in crypto that got deplatformed, couldn't get credit cards, couldn't get life insurance, couldn't get insurance, all this stuff. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. Like, you just were doing something that she found unsavory, so she abused her power.
Yeah.
And I think these people need to be thoroughly investigated. And I don't know anything in particular about Jamie Dimon, but I do know that ultimately, a lot of these big banks take their marching orders from politicians because they ultimately regulate them, right? So they're kind of they do what they tell them to do, and they don't have a lot of choice, right? It's like, we're going to come down hard on you, and we're going to regulate you more, and we're going to make your life miserable. And so they acquiesce.
Yeah. What do you think? I just came back from the CHT conference, and Catherine Austin Fitts was there, and she talked a lot about the financial control grid. What's your opinion on, because I hear a lot on both sides, and I just want our audience to understand, on one hand, Bitcoin and crypto is the way forward. As you mentioned, the left was against it because it loses control of that matrix. But on the other hand, you have a lot of people saying it's all CIA honeypot. Exactly. It's a scam, and they're going to rip you off in the end. What do you think?
Well, usually you look at who benefits from something, and that usually tells you who's behind it. I think that crypto is definitely, if you look at it, it would be the perfect way of enticing people to go digital, own everything, and move away from, physical assets and cash money, paper money. And in the end, because it's done so well, people are a lot more open-minded to it. So I think you have to look at it and be a little bit cautious about, where this thing goes. I think, I think that probably governments, and I think Europe is ahead of it on this game. They're trying to get away from cash money, and they're trying to move towards a system where everything's basically like some kind of like digital asset, that the money's in a digital asset that where they can control things. That's potentially very scary.
It is. And that's what Catherine was talking about, that you gotta keep using cash.
Right. Well, and I don't know, you don't know whoever created Bitcoin. And I know a lot of guys that know far more about it than I do, but you have to ask yourself the question, do they know more than what we think they do about who's trading it and where it's going? And that makes me kind of wary just in general. I would much prefer to hold. I mean, I think in the end of the day, like, Bitcoin's a novel concept and it's great, but it doesn't really have any value other than the pyramid aspect of it. There's more buyers than sellers, and that enforces value. It's not like it's got some, something that backs it like gold or something else that makes it value. It's kind of a wrapper. So I think in time, I think, we move towards, I mean, the interesting, another angle in this is maybe in time we start moving away from actual currencies, and you start moving away from a collateralized system to actually paying in collateral, right? So if you have a digital asset that is backed by gold, when you go into a shop, you can pay in that asset, and that's a whole different ball game. That makes fiat currencies look a lot less attractive.
Yeah. I went through the coming traveling. I was at the MTA at JFK, and you have to pay to get on the little air train, and they have like 10 booths set up. The turnstiles usually go through, put your MTA card in, and you go through, pay your $10. And I noticed like 8 of them were digital only. So they're moving. Everybody had to have their phone to get through, which I found disturbing, to be honest. Very Chinese, very CCP like.
Well, it's not disturbing if your government's not out to get you, if you actually control your government, if the voters do. And I don't think we live in a world like that at all right now.
Yeah, I know. What do you, well, the financial control grid, Catherine Austin Fitts, please check out her and her thoughts to the audience about, she's huge into using cash only and to developing family wealth. And she calls it the people bank instead of, putting it all in somebody else's hands. But where do you see we're going as far as we did a lot of talk in the first segment about, what's going on in the Middle East with Trump. I mean, Trump, I'm sorry to our audience, doesn't seem to be like pushing America first. He's pushing something else. Any thoughts on that?
I can't disagree. I mean, I think he had a really bad interview with Laura Ingraham. I think, I think I think one of the things
I like the guy. I want him to succeed.
Yeah, same. But I think one of the things that we don't realize about the president is that one of his biggest jobs is to manage the people who are actually in control.
Yeah.
And to try and get what he can for the rest of the people in the country. And I don't think it matters who the president is. And I think with respect to all the people and all the clowns we've seen in there, I think Trump's a lot better than most of these people. And I think, maybe I'm just very gullible, but I think generally his heart is in the right place and he wants to do that. But I think there's a limit to what he can get away with, and I had this conversation with somebody about Ukraine today. It's like, people are really pissed off about Ukraine still going on. There's still, I don't want to be paying civil servants in Ukraine. And I certainly don't want to be giving more money to a government that's getting ready to topple. But, in a weird roundabout way, if Trump isn't as in control as we think he is, maybe the best solution is to let Russia do exactly what they're doing, and which is win the war. Right.
Well, that's happening.
Exactly. And then it's fait complete, right? It's over.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and so like maybe in a weird way, that's what is happening. And that's the only way to end this thing is to let Russia go on and completely defeat the Ukrainians. And then there's not a question. Then they get to, then we'll see, there's all kinds of stupid conspiracy things out there about how Russia's going to conscript all the Ukrainian soldiers and then launch attacks into Europe. And I just think that's, again, Putin is like an example of the same thing. Like, as much as you hate him or like him, he's probably a lot better than an alternative.
Yeah.
And a lot more rational, clearly, than an alternative.
So you can see that theory with Trump in a lot of ways, right? I mean, like the Epstein thing. I mean, maybe he just doesn't have a choice. And so it's a choice between, okay, do you want to get rid of immigrants, or do you want to talk about Epstein?
Well, I think with the Epstein stuff, personally, I think a lot of that is you look at the background of Ghislaine and, her father, and what Trump's biggest sort of mission was in the beginning was to create peace in the Middle East. And maybe that's part of the reason he's not being forthcoming about the Epstein stuff, because we don't really want to know who was behind Epstein. And if it is indeed intelligence agencies, and in particular, maybe the Israeli intelligence agencies, that could put a serious barrier to a peace process.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of bigger agendas that we don't see, I guess, is the point. Wow. Anything else, Tom, you want to talk about?
Well, there was talk. One of the things that's been flying around is this talk. Pulte was talking about a 50-year mortgage.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was met with a lot of people saying that it was like slavery and all this stuff. And, you know, it's not very hard. You can take an Excel spreadsheet and build mortgages and build payments and look at how mortgages are and put different interest rates for mortgages. I don't think a 50-year mortgage for young people is a bad thing at all because it's some semblance of ownership. I mean, clearly your principal payments make it a lot cheaper because the principal payments are a lot less than they are on, let's say, a 10-year mortgage. But I think that, you know, it's a good place to be it's better than renting. And at least you do get some ownership, and then you do get some economic benefit of the asset when you sell it. And most people talk about these 50-year mortgages. Obviously, the interest you pay is like twice what it is on a 30-year mortgage over the life of that. But most people own their houses for 11 years. So that's not going to come into any kind of major thing. If you buy your house and you move in 5 years, you get the equity. I mean, you pay the interest.
It's just a way to get the equity is what you're saying.
Correct. It's a way to have ownership, and having ownership is better than renting. That's for sure.
What about the DC market? Have you looked at that at all? You know, I have some people that are interested in were asking me, and because you've had all the federal jobs get cut.
Yeah, I haven't. I mean, I think it's probably, I know that it hasn't done as well as it has in the past when, you get more government layoffs and stuff. And I think it's probably, it's probably a lot better value now than it was, let's say, in the, COVID era and during Biden, when all the, government was growing in leaps and bounds. So it's probably a more attractive market now.
Interesting. Got plans for New Year's?
No, I can't think that far out.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on. We'll talk again soon. All right, take care. Bye.
Watching my friends gain more and more weight, and then eventually I got to tell you, this is a little dark, but bad diet literally killed my whole crew.
Wow.
Diabetes, a stroke, I mean, all kinds of stuff. It's like, you had a stroke? You're not even 50 years old. You guys got to quit eating this stuff. Your body knows what's what. You're not conscious of this. But that's why people will go to the refrigerator and they'll grab this and that and the other and put together this outrageously elaborate combination of foods. Your body's trying to reach balance. Unbeknownst to us, our bodies are always trying to reach homeostasis. You can't eat all of this stuff and expect to live a long time. And one thing led to another, and I went, forget this. We're going to make our own product. So we partnered with one of the world's top 3 biochemists where nutrition specific study is concerned. I said, all I want is the best nutritional and immune support product in the world. So we mixed it in yogurt. It's a powder. I got a bag of it here. I keep one on the console all the time, just so I can show people.
Yeah.
And it's a powder. Now, this is not candy. This is hardcore nutrition. And sugar is an enemy. And most people do not know that the reason these bellies are showing up on people all over the place, your body makes fat to store the toxins it can't get rid of. So it just puts them over here. But I can tell you this, you take this for 30 days and then lay off of it for 2 or 3 days, and you'll go, good grief, give me some more. Skin, nails, hair growing back. Cut yourself and it heals in half the time.
I'm David Cross, and you may know me from my election integrity work, but I also own U.S. Asset Management, an investment advisory practice. I've been an advisor for nearly 30 years, and one of the questions I get asked most frequently is, do I have enough money relative to other people my age? And while that's an interesting question, it's also the wrong question. The right question is do you have enough money to sustain your lifestyle for the rest of your life? This is a question you should know the answer to. This is what we do. Check us out at us-am.com and look for our big proud American Eagle logo.
We have foot, slogging over Africa. Foot, slogging over Africa, boot, 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 moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. 7, 6, 11.
Welcome back to the SCIF. We got Patrick Byrne at the top of the hour, and then former Trump Attorney John Lauro in the bottom of the hour, in the second hour, to discuss religious freedom and his fight and involvement in that fight. We are on podcast everywhere. If you can't get the show during the show, check us out on any podcast provider. We stream on Gettr, on X, on Rumble, and we load the show on YouTube. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do that. We need to grow those numbers since we were deplatformed a while back. We're back on YouTube. So please also subscribe to us on podcast. We just want to, and on Rumble, CDM1, and on X, CDM_press. And you can find me at Real L. Todd Wood on X. So please help us grow our numbers. We really need it because we've been attacked pretty damn heavily. Another thing I wanted to discuss is in the Georgia show, we have discussed heavily the Seven Mountain theory from the theory of the I don't want to call it an evangelical Christian. It's more of an aberrant Christian theology of dominionism, maybe hence the name of the machines. We don't know, but it's a Christian offshoot theology where you infiltrate government and other things, and it's called the Seven Mountains that you have to capture. Well, we've talked a lot about that on the Georgia show and what's going on in the great state of Georgia and the Ponzi scheme in Georgia, where 140 million was stolen from grassroots and others using the Christian narrative. We're Christians, give us your money, we'll help do good. And then they stole $140 million. It was seized by the SEC. So what fascinated me was that Candace Owens is also talking about this last night. And I just want to, this is something we're going to watch and continue to report on. So I just wanted to play this and see what you think.
Understanding right away, telling the public, the Republicans, that we had to fight for justice. They went out immediately following the election results. One person was Lance Wallnau. Okay, I want you to remember this guy's name, Lance Wallnau. Immediately, just 3 days after the election of 2020, on November 6th, he publishes this onto his Facebook page, okay? It says, "We're going to expose the fraud and stop the steal. The Lord our God is with us, and we were built for this battle. Be strong and courageous." So that's 3 days after he's saying, stop the steal, be strong, be courageous. And Lance, who is a charismatic preacher, wasn't the only charismatic preacher or pastor that instantly threw their weight behind, quote unquote, stopping the steal. Actually, 4 out of the 6 protest permits that were issued on January 6th were issued to independent, charismatic Christian groups, okay? 15 of these pastors and leaders surrounded Trump at the White House leading up to the January 6th Stop the Steal rally, telling him that the war was now spiritual. So they're in his ear. This is spiritual. This is what you have to do, Mr. President, okay? There's an article about that. It's the New Apostolic Reformation drove the January 6th riots. So why was it overlooked by the House Select Committee, this person asks, okay? NAR, I brought this up to you before. Lance Wallnau is in this article. So is Sean Foyt. Now you're thinking these names might sound familiar. Certainly Sean Foyt, I brought him up to you regarding TPUS Faith, who started to lead these events that they were having. So who is Lance Wallnau? Well, he is one of these NAR preachers, like I said, who came up with their 7 Mountain Mandate, okay? Charlie began to become very interested in the 7 Mountain Mandate. I would say he became mesmerized by the 7 Mountain Mandate. He became friends with Lance Wallnau. I'm going to let you listen to Lance himself describe this 7 Mountain Mandate in his own words.
Hi, I'm Lance Wallnau. I want to talk to you for a moment about this concept called the 7M Mandate. In reality, it started with a conversation I had in the year 2000. I had been talking to Lauren Cunningham, who's the founder of Youth with a Mission. And Lauren was sharing with me about a conversation he had had with Bill Bright. The two of them were visited, actually, by the Lord within the same 24 hours. And God spoke to them and said they had a message to give the other man. And the message was that there are 7 molders of culture, or 7 world kingdoms, and that he who could take those kingdoms could take the harvest of nations. Now, this illustration is the way I see it. I look at it this way. I see those 7 molders of culture as being the religion mountain, as a metaphor for something you've got to take or climb. Then we have education, we could say, family. These are in no particular order of importance. They all represent the forces that shape societies and nations. Government, media, art, which is the entertainment mountain, and business, which is where we have the economics mountain happening also. Now, these 7 fields of influence are very powerful, so powerful, in fact, that he who occupies the top of those mountains can literally shape the agenda that forms nations. The foundation of the prosperity of nations is going to have to be the teaching of Jesus. The good news is you can do that covert or you can do that overt. You can be, like I always say, you could actually be following that thing from Jehovah Rofi, Jehovah Nisi, Jehovah Sidkenu, or Jehovah Sneaky. Because God has a way of getting into positions, companies, businesses, nations, and communities before the devil even knows what got in there. Because the gospel is bigger than just the church mountain. It's the gospel that covers the whole earth.
So what he's describing there and what they believe is that there are new prophets, there are new apostles, they have the 7 mountain mandate. And when he is speaking about covertly, he means that, okay? This is a philosophy of infiltration. He says, but before people even know, boom, he describes it as a devil, but before people know, boom, everyone around them is actually working for a higher purpose. Man, I gotta say, kind of sort of reminds me of what happened to Charlie, right? This is kind of where this is going. Turning Point Faith, everywhere that I'm investigating, Turning Point Faith keeps coming up. These characters.
So we're going to stay on this. I don't know where it's going to lead, but I just found some eerie connections with what's happening in the great state of Georgia, in the Georgia GOP, and what is happening possibly at Turning Point. So we're going to continue looking. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Well, in the case of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, these are 2 medications that have been FDA approved for use in humans for decades. They are very, very inexpensive. Interestingly, available over the counter in almost every other country other than the US and Canada. You can just walk into a pharmacy and buy them like we buy Tylenol in much of the world because they're that safe. And we've known for decades that ivermectin has very strong antiviral properties. It has anti-inflammatory properties, and both ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine are what we call zinc ionophores. They help to move zinc from the bloodstream into the cell, which is where it needs to be in order to fight off a virus. So lots of application for these, and we have every reason to believe that those drugs also will likely have some efficacy against H5N1 or a number of other respiratory viruses that we may meet down the road.
If you haven't noticed, gold has reached a new high, all-time highs actually, and keeps going up every day. Why is that? It's because precious metals are a long-time historical store of value. And if you own a portfolio and you have assets in the fiat currencies, i.e. stocks, bonds, cash, or whatever, you're vulnerable to hyperinflation, which is coming as our debt explodes another $1 trillion every 90 days. It's really scary. So how do you protect yourself? Go to Advisor Metals. If you look on any of our cdm.press sites, about halfway down, there's an ad for Advisor Metals. Click on it, fill out the form for your contact info, and Ira Bishotsky will contact you and talk to you. It's an easy conversation. There's no sales pitch. He's completely verified by us. He has a regulatory background we've checked into. We've checked with his bankers. We've checked with his IRA custodians for metals, and we can highly recommend Advisor Metals and Ira. So go to Advisor Metals. If you call them directly, tell them we sent you at CDM, and he'll definitely take care of you. But protect your portfolio because you really need to. It's coming. Thank you. Welcome back to the SCIF. Let's look at a few stories here. This one we put out this morning, a looming conflict between Turkey and Israel in the Middle East. You have to understand what's going on here. You've got Israel who's trying to expand into southern Syria, into Lebanon, into the West Bank, into Gaza. You have Syria, which was controlled by the Assad regime, an Iranian proxy state, which is now controlled by Turkey and the Sunni Islamists. And, one of the first things that al-Shara did when he did take power from the Assad regime was to go down and kill about 10,000 minorities, Alawites, and about 2,000 Christians in the south of Syria. Israel is supporting the Druze and other minorities there. What their, motivation is, we're not really sure, because they're saying, we're not going to give back any of the southern Syria. And then you have Israel bombing southern Lebanon with Hezbollah. Of course, that's been a long time strategic enemy of Israel, so that makes sense. But what happens to the Lebanese Christians in Lebanon, we're going to continue to highlight. But Turkey has become a big power. Their weapons manufacturing has really, and they've done a lot of good PR job of talking about this. Their drone capabilities and other weapon systems are being exported elsewhere now, and they're becoming quite powerful militarily. This is the old Ottoman Empire. Erdogan, after the Ottoman Empire, you had Ataturk, which came into Turkey and made it a secular state to get the Muslim jihadi element out. But now Erdogan has defeated that and defeated the coup several years back, a decade ago. And usually the generals would come in if the government was becoming too religious, and they tried that again and it didn't work. So Erdogan has full power in Turkey. There's still some pushback and some, political opposition, but he has put some of those people in jail, like the mayor of Istanbul. So it's a difficult situation in Turkey, especially if you're a journalist trying to tell the truth. You've also got the Christian element with Turkey and Azerbaijan joining forces. Turkey is where the Armenian genocide happened, and the Azeris are fighting the the Armenians, and removing Christian lands. You've got the Trump route for international peace and prosperity, which links Turkey and Azerbaijan through southern Armenia. Many are saying that is losing Armenia's sovereignty. So Turkey is on the rise. The Ottoman Empire, the Sunni Islam, in connection with the Gulf Sunni states, is on the rise in the Middle East. It's, I think, mainly due to resources. And this is going to clash with the Israelis at some point. You have Israel. Well, Turkey was saying we're going to establish some bases in southern Syria, and that didn't help the Israelis, so they bombed those bases. And so you have a looming conflict, in our opinion. And then you got, where's the Trump administration? It seems they're on both sides. You've got Trump, which we'll talk about in a minute, looking to put a massive base on the Gaza border with Israel to help implement the peace plans. I didn't vote for that. We'll talk about that in a second. But we're good at trends at CDM. We're very good at trends. And we see this as a trend, as some kind of conflict between Israel and Turkey, the old Ottoman against the Jewish, powers in the Levant and across the Middle East. So very important. And what happens to Syria is very important. Let's talk about this. We played the cold open. Trump in this video said that, we don't have enough talent in the U.S. and we have to bring in other people. And he's like pushing the migrants. I think that's obviously for China. And, I'm not in love with that whole theory either. I think we have plenty of talent here. And as Laura said, I'm not a fan of Laura because I think Fox News went off the rails a long time ago. But she's right, saying, we have to depend on China to support our universities. We can't do it on our own. That doesn't make sense at all. But Trump is obviously being controlled by other powers, as Tom Teague says. And this one is another head scratcher, which, is concerning. Now, let's look at armedforces.press. This is the story of, let me bring that up one second. Major new U.S. base in the Gaza war zone. This is an image of Reagan walking past U.S. troops that were, or personnel that were killed in the Beirut embassy bombing a long time ago in the Middle East. We put thousands of troops in there. They're going to be targets eventually. So, sorry, I'm just, Patrick's coming in, so good for that. working a lot of things here this morning. Also, the U.S. Army is looking to not buy any more crewed helicopters. That is a stunning announcement, and then a fast one as well. And they're thinking after these contracts currently run out, they're just going to buy robotic rotary wing vertical lift aircraft. Again, stunning announcement, which where that ends up, we don't know. And this is the article on Armed Forces Press also about the base being built in Gaza. I've got Patrick Byrne confirmed coming in shortly, so stay with us. We'll be right back and bring Patrick in. So we'll be right back.
I'm a naturopathic doctor. We are in the world of medicine very acquainted with many modalities, but probably the one most familiar with everybody would be two things: homeopathy and herbs, maybe some nutrients too, vitamins, minerals, that kind of thing. Now, we do know a lot about the drugs because we have to find out what drug you're taking affects you and what nutrient it depletes you of, because most every drug pharmacy product will deplete something. So we have been trained, and we have a database that we can check into that says this is going to take your B12 away. The pharmaceutical company cannot patent organic substances made by the body. You're not born short of Advil. You're not born short of Ritalin.
Yeah.
You can be born short of insulin, right? Mm-hmm. The answers to staying healthy and keeping away from even SARS or any of those things getting into you is staying healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You and I get sick because our terrain gets out of balance. Well, that's the same thing in the soil. You and I are made from this thing called dirt. And when we get out of balance, we have the same thing happen. Weeds start to grow in our body. Right? And that's what we want in our body. We want nutrients that we don't understand how to get well enough yet because our suppliers are lacking knowledge on nutrient density foods.
So this is what drove you to develop this, was your knowledge of this, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know that.
I'm excited to announce that we're having a huge sale on overstock and brand new products. For example, My Pillow Percale bed sheets, every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. Our Percale bed sheets are breathable, cool and crisp, and they're perfect for spring and summer. And check out Rev 7, the next generation of energy drinks. It tastes great, and it gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. Best of all, it's actually good for you. And for a limited time, try our 3-pack absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs, or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88. Twin size, full size, queen size, king sizes, all $29.88. Inventory is extremely limited at this price, so order now.
Welcome back to the SCIF. I see Patrick Byrne in the green room. I'm going to bring him in now. Good to see you again, Patrick.
Good to see you, Todd. Good to be on your show again, the SCIF.
Thank you so much.
After all these years.
Yeah. We've been talking. I think this is probably our 15th interview. I don't know, somewhere in that range. But where are you these days?
I am. And well, I'm actually in the home of, I guess it doesn't hurt to say, my friend Joby Weeks, one of the OGs of Bitcoin, of crypto. He's under house arrest. So when I come through the Miami area, I make a point of stopping in and giving him some company.
Very cool. Yeah, we're based out of Miami, so let's hook up next time.
Are
I
you
wanted to
based
get,
in Miami?
yeah,
I'll
yeah,
come to your
Miami
studios
Beach.
next time.
Yeah. I wanted to talk to you about you've been out a lot on the elections and you've put out a lot of stuff, and you're a hard guy to get a hold of. But where are we on this machine issue with our elections, in your opinion? Because you've put out a lot of information.
Well, I think it's all falling apart. I think that there will be an executive order. There needs to be an executive order blocking these machines. I think it'll all fall apart. I think this is not unrelated to why there's a dozen warships and a supercarrier off the coast of Venezuela.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right.
I think it's all coming to a head. Their perfidy. I've said publicly before, these people have flipped elections for 20 years in 72 nations.
Yeah.
They've changed the course of Western history. And it's so Chinese, nobody ever knew they were even doing it.
Yeah. And so is the Trump administration aware of that, in your opinion?
The Trump administration is supercarrier aware.
And are they going to get rid of the machines before 26, in your opinion? Put you on the
Yes,
spot.
I do. There's no way these can be entertained with what we know now. And they can get Venezuela, they can get Serbia, but a new center that hacks these systems could be set up somewhere else. It's very decentralized. You could operate from anywhere in the world. You could affect these elections. So we simply can't use these machines, and there has to be an executive order to achieve that. But after I think what gets revealed, I think that any non-corrupt state is going to demand to get rid of the machines themselves.
Do you know much about the Serbian situation? I was just over there and happened to walk by the Dominion address and took a glance. But is that operation still in operation? Do you know?
I don't know. Of course, we know that they said that they sold to some American guy who's been involved in some mischief before, whose CFO is actually a money launderer per the SEC. So I don't really think that's going to stand scrutiny. It's a last-ditch attempt to try to save these machines from being junked. I know that on election day, not their headquarters, but their data center was taken down, which is a story that has got to see the light someday. But that's why we had a fair election. Their data center in Belgrade was smoked, but they're not. But that whole story will be coming out sooner rather than later. But we'll leave that up to Uncle Sam.
Interesting. I was just in Belgrade. So then are you still working on this? Is this still your primary focus on the election fraud stuff, or where are you?
Things haven't quite wrapped up for me. It's kind of funny. I'm still in the middle of 21 to 24. Oddly enough, you would think that everything would have been taken off my hands the day. Wouldn't of you have thought that maybe all of this would have been taken off my hands, Todd?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's not quite the way Uncle Sam works. So unfortunately, this is not all off my hands, but it will be soon. That's my intent.
Interesting. Anything else? I just wanted to mainly talk to you about the elections. Is there anything else you want to get out to the public about what's going on behind the scenes?
Sure. Stephanie Lambert. Well, the first Stephanie Lambert is the Arctic frost documents have come out, and the number one person the other side wanted to neutralize with lawfare was Stephanie Lambert. And there's documentation in that Arctic frost you can read about how they decided they needed to, find me the person or show me the person, I'll find you the crime, is the old Stalinist Beria trope. They were showing the people and they went out to find the crimes. And I'd say the charges against Stephanie are as Kafka-esque as the charges that were brought against Tina Peters. But it's trial. They're trying to put Stephanie in prison for like 20 years. It'd be a beautiful thing for the DOJ to be investigating the judge and jury, the judge and prosecutor, because they are taking some very strange, twisted legal positions in order to get her into prison. That almost as if they really have an agenda about it. Almost as if they So they've really prosecutors take weird positions all the time, but this prosecutor has really tortured the law. Actually, he told the jury something he knew not to be true. He told the jury, it's funny, they're bringing charges against Stephanie and this town clerk for undue possession of machines that the town clerk owns. And they possess these, and the law describes undue possession as A, B, C, or D. And the prosecutor says, well, you didn't have the permission of the Secretary of State to take these machines and examine them. And to which the Stephanie says, the law doesn't say that. It just says A, B, C, or D. And so the prosecutor told the jury, that the grand jury to indict her, that the law was they needed the permission of the Secretary of State, and now they've put that in the jury instructions, and the jury, they've gone to the judge and said this is just made up. It's nowhere in the law that anyone had to get the Secretary of State. Plus, the Secretary of State had intervened on the opposing side, so that would be saying that we need to get the approval of the official that we're suspecting of. Plus, the law gives the town clerk the ability to investigate the machines and to use county, state, or private resources to do it. And they used a former prosecutor who then hired government scientists to do it. It's the most cockamamie thing. They say, well, you needed the Secretary of State's permission, even though there's emails that show they knew that the town clerks didn't need the Secretary of State's permission. They even said the Secretary of State's Director of Elections sent an email where he said, you folks have the option to do this yourselves. We would prefer if you use one of the VSLIs, but you have the option to do it on your own. So where they come out of nowhere and say, well, you didn't get the Secretary of State permission. Well, that'd be horrible public policy because she's the person that you're questioning. Right. The law doesn't say anything about getting her permission, and she doesn't own these things. Oh, by the way, in another case where they FOIA'd the Secretary of State, she said, I don't control these machines. I don't have anything to say at all over these machines. So which is it? Which is it? It's whatever it is, it needs to be to shut down the Republican position that day. And so that's why these state judges we really need we need to muck out the stalls. We have totally corrupt state judiciaries that these kinds of positions get entertained for years.
Well, we've seen the same stuff going on in Florida, actually. What about DOJ? I hear they're way undermanned, underfinanced right now with all these guys that left, or guys and gals, attorneys that left. Is Ed Martin kind of the point man on a lot of this stuff, do you think?
Ed Martin, Harmeet Dillon. Ed Martin's great. Harmeet is just not, they have to have prosecutors, and these people get in and they're not given, Ed wasn't given prosecutors.
Yeah.
They were given no staff. They get titles and they're given no staff. They're given no people. Plus that's all changed slowly. Plus there's a guy named Todd Blanche, who's the number 2, who I'm told by everybody involved is an absolute blocker. Everything from the beginning, from Tina Peters' pardon to all kinds of other people getting funding and stuff. It's that to investigate, Trump came in and he did just the right just the right things, authorized just the right task forces and all this stuff. Everything got blocked at the Todd Blanche level. Just slowed down and slowed down.
So I had a guy on, Tom Teague, who's a financial, master of the universe type from Credit Suisse back in the day. But he was his opinion is, Trump is trying to do what he can, but there's limits that he runs up into, and he has to kind of not just manage what's going on in the world, but kind of the people that are really pulling the strings. Do you see it that way?
I think he has a lot of constituencies to please. I don't understand his actions sometimes. This is why I say 93% of the time I've come to adore the guy. And 7% of the time he seems to struggle with decisions and tasks that should be really easy.
Yeah.
And it's hard to figure, but maybe sometimes he knows things that I don't, but sometimes I think he just he lets his staff get away with slow rolling.
Wow. Totally agree with that. Well, Patrick, you've kind of answered my questions. Anything else you want to get out?
No. Nice job. Thank you, Todd.
I appreciate it. Take care, my friend. Ciao.
Bye.
Celebrate celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7, I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7 that for a limited time you can try our 3-pack absolutely free. Or check out our Percale bed sheets. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. Every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes only $29.88, even the queens and kings. Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.
Pandemic, we can never be caught unprepared again. And so many Americans, when COVID hit, they had nothing in the house. Stores were shut down and doctors' offices were shut down. And even if doctors prescribed drugs, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, pharmacists wouldn't fill the prescriptions. That was a nightmare.
Now the situation is much worse. We have these horrible supply chain problems. In our emergency medical kit at the Wellness Company, we have 8 prescription drugs that are all potentially life-saving.
Most people who died with COVID, they died in the hospital because they didn't receive early treatment.
Every American family should have one of these.
I can tell you the Wellness Company kit is the answer.
When Johnny comes marching home again, hurrah, hurrah, we'll give him a hearty welcome then, hurrah, hurrah. Oh, the men will cheer, the boys will shout, the ladies, they will all turn out and we'll all...
I had a request to run an interview with Dr. Tapper, again, Ben Tapper, at the CHD conference. We were talking to a lot of people there, and he's become quite... impactful. So I want to run this interview from Dr. Tapper, and then we've got John Lauro at the bottom of the hour, the former Trump attorney, talking about a religious freedom case. So here we go. How you doing, Doc? Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Todd. Doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So there's been a lot happening since we last talked a few months ago. In the MAHA movement, with the CDC, with the administration, with the vaccines, with the mRNA, where do we stand on making America healthy again, in your opinion?
Well, the MAHA movement is gaining traction because the soil for truth is rich right now. People are starving for this information. So the tides are turning. I mean, the health and chronic disease is at the forefront of this conversation, and the truth about vaccinations are coming to the forefront, which I would say brings vindication to you and I in this lawsuit. And I think that that's it's an exciting time to be alive right now. So finally, the truth is coming out.
Completely agreed. What roadblocks are being thrown up? I know that there was one with the CDC and ended up at least getting rid of the old administrator and maybe somebody new. Has there been a new one appointed yet? Do you know of?
I don't know if there's been a new appointee yet for that, but how do you say it? People are there is a lot of transitions occurring in the CDC and especially in the ACIP, which we saw with new members being appointed there. And I think that they're really the roadblocks here are the people that are still involved. The 6 surgeons general now trying to get rid of Bobby Kennedy coming about. You see this campaign coming against him and the movement because they're terrified. They're protecting this $1 trillion industry. And so they're terrified of this whole industry falling apart, but it's rotting from the inside out. And so we're seeing that.
As we approach the fall, temperatures are coming down. Let's just talk health for a minute. Flu is going to start circulating. What can people do to not get sick, essentially, in this environment?
Yeah, I mean, first off, we're entering the sugar holidays, right? So in the vitamin D deficiency season, I mean, this is a very stressful time for a lot of people. A lot of people always go over budget during Christmas time. We have a sugar holiday followed by a cake holiday, followed by, Christmas holiday. And so our diets play a massive role. I mean, all disease and flu season, I was taught there are only 4 seasons in school, not 5. But, the flu season is really a vitamin D deficiency season. But we need to, value our health now before we get sick. So many people, we have high stress. We don't get enough sleep, and this whole daylight savings time thing, we so-called lose an hour, gain an hour of sleep, which doesn't make any sense to me. Only the government thinks that they can cut an inch off a blanket and add it to the top of the blanket and have a longer blanket, right? But, this is a real issue. But the flu season, we need to value our health, get enough sleep, be sufficient in vitamin D. Unless we get 30 minutes of summer sunlight, we're going to be deficient in vitamin D. So we need to have supplementation here with vitamin D. And God forbid we do get sick, there are things that we can do to really combat that. And there's some really good things out there. The Wellness Company has a lot of good things out there that I recommend.
So I am never going to take another vaccine again, but the flu vaccine is coming around. What say you on that?
Well, it's worthless, first and foremost. You can save 5 cents on your gasoline. You might be able to get some perks here, but really it's going to be at the expense of your health. The flu shot has been absolutely, it's disastrous. The flu, every year, we hear in the media that 80,000 people die of the flu every year, or these are far cries, because if you look at the National Vital Reporting System, the subdivision of the CDC is the data collection system. They actually hyperinflate those numbers. Really, if you look at some of the studies that were published in the American Physicians of Surgeons, they talked about how 90% of the deaths occur in the elderly, and most of those people have comorbidities, and not only that, they're on 13 plus medications. So the flu season, again, we always hear, we need to get this vaccine to prevent the flu. I've never once had a flu shot, and I never get the flu. And
funny how that happens.
Yeah, what does that tell you? I take care of my body. I give the body what it needs. I give it enough rest, and I'm well. And that's really the solution here. So we shouldn't fear the so-called flu. Again, fear mongering is such a crime with the media. I was taught that fear is the fire that fuels the furnace of disease. And so we shouldn't have to fear the so-called flu, but just give the body what it needs and we can be well. But again, they hyperinflate those numbers, and they really manipulate the data to scare and coerce people to get the flu shot.
If you do get the flu, I know the Wellness Company has some options for that, the emergency medical kits, et cetera. I've got a few here, which I show all the time. But what do you suggest to, as a representative of the Wellness Company, what do you provide for those kind of disease?
Yeah. So first off, I recommend all disease starts with toxicity and deficiency. We need to move away from that into purity and sufficiency. And we do that with good supplementation, first off, giving the body what it needs. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So really, prevention is the key here. Okay, so good supplementation. The Wellness Company has some of the best supplements on the planet. But moving away, if we do get sick, God forbid we do get sick, they have some heavy hitters here. I call it vitamin I. In the emergency kit with the ivermectin, you can get that. I can't tell you how many people I know that got sick during COVID and they didn't get the vaccine. They're like, oh, I just took ivermectin and I was better within a day. That is legit, happened. And now this is another thing. Ivermectin is a powerful anti-parasitic. So what does that tell you about this so-called flu? Maybe it's parasitic in nature. So the ivermectin is very powerful. People had taken that and they've gotten better. The Wellness Company has that. And they also have a phenomenal list of the best things out there. So, and I'm not saying that, I do take spike support also. That's something I would recommend for a lot of people. The spike detox is something I think that it should be in every cabinet, because the shedding is a real thing. People are suffering now more with myocarditis, cardiovascular issues than ever before. And so the spike toxin is a real thing. So, the spike detox is one of those supplements that I would put on the top of the list.
So that is the spike protein is created by the vaccine or by COVID, by the shedding, as you said. The ingredients in the ultimate spike detox will studies have shown it reduces the spike protein, which can...
The nattokinase, yep. That's the whole goal of that. With the dandelion root and the selenium, it's all going to be a very, very powerful detoxifier, cleanser in the body. So I do recommend that.
And we're not saying it cures cancer, but the spike protein may have an impact on some of the turbo cancers we're seeing, possibly. So
yeah, I mean, possibly. The antioxidant has been shown. Obviously, the selenium has been shown to be very beneficial. So yes, this campaign coming against him and the movement, I do take spike support also. That's something I would recommend for a lot of people. The spike detox is something I think that it should be in every cabinet, because the shedding is a real thing. People are suffering now more with myocarditis, cardiovascular issues than ever before. And so the spike toxin is a real thing. So, the spike detox is one of those supplements that I would put on the top of the list.
So that is the spike protein is created by the vaccine or by COVID, by the shedding, as you said. The ingredients in the ultimate spike detox will, studies have shown it reduces the spike protein, which can...
The nattokinase, yep. That's the whole goal of that. With the dandelion root and the selenium, it's all going to be a very, very powerful detoxifier, cleanser in the body. So I do recommend that. 100%.
And, we're not saying it cures cancer, but the spike protein may have an impact on some of the turbo cancers we're seeing, possibly. So...
yeah, I mean, possibly. The antioxidant has been shown. Obviously, the selenium has been shown to be very beneficial. So yes. Yep.
Okay, let's move to ivermectin. I've read some stuff that it's effective against certain skin conditions, and I have some full disclosure that from COVID, kind of a long COVID, maybe it's autoimmune or whatever, but weird skin things happen, and I think that's common among people. I didn't get the vaccine, but ivermectin can be effective against that. Am I right?
Well, ivermectin cream is a new thing from the Wellness Company, and it's let me tell you, this thing there's no other product like it on the market.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
For any autoimmune or skin inflammatory condition, this ivermectin cream is going to work wonders. It can be even for chronic acne. So you rub it on the face, the acne will disappear. Rosacea, any inflammatory skin condition, the ivermectin cream is going to do wonders for people, and it has. So,
wow.
So it's even eczema. So it's something that I would recommend for 100%.
Are people waking up to the corruption in the medical establishment?
I think now more than ever before, and I think you know the answer to that. I mean, again, the soil for truth is rich. So many people are waking up. They're asking questions. I mean, 10 years ago, having a vaccine conversation it had such a negative connotation around the conversation, and people thought you were a quack or a loon even just to bring it up. But now more people are waking up to that. But, what we learned during COVID, Big Pharma overplayed their hand, and so I think people are waking up and people are asking questions, and I'm very thankful for that. And so, now it's not so taboo to talk about these questions or talk about vaccines in general. People are waking up. The tides are turning. I wish more people would wake up to this, but I'm encouraged by the how do you say it? I just think of the quote by Sam Adams. He said, it doesn't take a majority to prevail, but rather an irate, tireless minority keen on sending brush fires of freedom in the minds of the people. I feel like that irate, tireless minority, they're getting louder by the day, and they're waking up and they're speaking out. They're not afraid to speak out against these issues. And we're asking questions. When you have a president now talking about autism and the correlation with vaccinations and Tylenol and acetaminophen, I mean, this is an exciting time. This is something that you and I have worked very hard for many years to bring the truth to the people, and especially the corruption around the vaccine industry. I mean, this is a burden that we've been carrying for decades, and now we're finally talking about it. These topics are coming to the surface, and the people are listening. So I'm very thankful for that. Again, it's an exciting time.
Last question. I've had a lot of pushback on the Tylenol issue. Do you know a lot about? Can you add some clarity as to why that's a problem? You may not know, but
yeah. Well, the acetaminophen. Here's the thing. The pushback that I'm getting is like, listen, it's the vaccines. Okay, the vaccines in correlation with autism. First of all, autism is not genetic. There's an epigenetic cause factor here. Okay, and it is not, these children are not born with it. The diagnostic tool for autism is based on a behavioral analysis. There's no lab, there's no genetic factor here. Okay, so there's an environmental toxicity factor that's causing this disease. And first and foremost, it's not just the acetaminophen or Tylenol, it is the vaccines. Vaccines light the fire, and Tylenol is putting fuel on that fire. Because what happens when we take acetaminophen or Tylenol, the byproduct of that through the liver is going to be a nasty byproduct, okay, that actually requires glutathione to metabolize. Okay, we need to have the most powerful antioxidant in the body called glutathione, which metabolizes that byproduct of acetaminophen. Okay, so then you add vaccinations on top of that, or any trauma or stress, or like circumcision or whatever it may be. Birth is a stressor already. Just during the birthing canal, 80 pounds of pressure can be on the cervical spine of an infant. But I digress here. But what happens, the birthing process can be very stressful in itself. But you add vaccinations on top of that. We do flu vaccinations in utero. We do hepatitis B vaccine within the first 8 to 12 hours of life. We do vitamin K shots on top of this. And vitamin K is a synthetic hormone, which actually intoxicates the liver. It can be very, very intoxicating for the liver. And then you add acetaminophen on top of that. What do you think is going to happen? It's the perfect storm, creating this neurological damage, what we call autism. And so autism is not genetic, it's epigenetic, meaning that there is a causal factor here. And so when we talk about Tylenol, I'm thankful that we're talking about this. Yes, it can be harmful, and can be fuel in the fire, but the real underlying issue here are the vaccines, the amount of vaccines, and the level of aluminum adjuvants, MSG, yes, the thimerosal, which is 49% ethyl mercury. It is a neurotoxin. I don't care what anybody says. It is very damaging during the nervous system. I mean, you look at a baby's nervous system that develops, the nervous system doubles in size that first year of life. Not only that, we have a condition, a developmental stage in when these babies are born called exuberant neurosynaptogenesis, which that nervous system is developing at a rapid rate. It's doubling in size. I mean, all those neural pathways are developing, and we have the most amount of vaccines in that period of time. It's common sense to think maybe we shouldn't be doing that, but unfortunately, common sense, Todd, is not so common.
Well, it almost begs, and I think I know the answer, but you have to say, well, if you wanted to harm the development of a child, what would you do? You would give them a lot of this in the early stages when that's developing, right?
That's 100% right.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart though, just like to even think that this is happening. And this is, we are beyond a debate here. This is we are at a stage where there's literally crimes against humanity, and these people are protecting this industry, and it's evil.
It's an anti-human agenda. And you look at all of it, the abortion.
Well, in the case of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, these are two medications that have been FDA approved for use in humans for decades. They are very, very inexpensive. Interestingly, available over the counter in almost every other country other than the US and Canada. You can just walk into a pharmacy and buy them like we buy Tylenol in much of the world because they're that safe. And we've known for decades that ivermectin has very strong antiviral properties. It has anti-inflammatory properties, and both ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine are what we call zinc ionophores. They help to move zinc from the bloodstream into the cell, which is where it needs to be in order to fight off a virus. So lots of application for these, and we have every reason to believe that those drugs also will likely have some efficacy against H5N1 or a number of other respiratory viruses that we may meet down the road.
If you haven't noticed, gold has reached a new high, all-time highs actually, and keeps going up every day. Why is that? It's because precious metals are a long-time historical store of value. And if you own a portfolio and you have assets in the fiat currencies, i.e. stocks, bonds, cash, or whatever, you're vulnerable to hyperinflation, which is coming as our debt explodes another trillion every 90 days. It's really scary. So how do you protect yourself? Go to Advisor Metals. If you look on any of our cdm.press sites, about halfway down, there's an ad for Advisor Metals. Click on it, fill out the form for your contact info, and Ira Bishotsky will contact you and talk to you. It's an easy conversation. There's no sales pitch. He's completely verified by us. He has a regulatory background we've checked into. We've checked with his bankers. We've checked with his IRA custodians for metals, and we can highly recommend Advisor Metals and Ira. So go to Advisor Metals. If you call them directly, tell them we sent you at CDM, and he'll definitely take care of you. But protect your portfolio because you really need to. It's coming. Thank you. Welcome back to the SCIF. I want to bring in John Lauro. Keep getting that weird blinking there on the screen. Not sure what's going on, guys, but we'll deal with it. John Lauro is a former prosecutor and former Trump attorney, so I'm going to bring him in now. He's in the green room. John, how you doing? Thanks for joining me this morning.
Great to see you and great to be on.
So I did some digging into you, and I was told a former federal prosecutor, Eastern District of New York, serious lawyer, no bombast, keeps his powder dry. So I think that was a good.
I just try to do my
best. So thanks for joining me this morning. But you're working on a religious freedom case, am I right?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
It's an unusual one. It involves a organization called One Taste and the leadership of One Taste, Nicole Dadone and Rachel Churitz. And they have a spiritual, sensual practice that has really been well publicized for many, many years. Great group of individuals. They really have decided to engage in kind of a communal spiritual practice. And they end up getting prosecuted by federal prosecutors under the Biden administration who didn't like the practice and didn't like the idea of, I think, female control over sexuality. And they end up looking at, right now, they're looking at 15 years in jail. I didn't handle the trial. I'm helping them in a post-trial setting, but the Biden administration decided to use this Trafficking Victims Protection Act in a very aggressive way that I'm concerned can be used against traditional religious groups as well. It's been used against the Maronil nuns. It's been used against religious groups in a twisted way by plaintiffs' law firms. But now this is the first time that the government has used it to put people in jail.
So what is the MO? I mean, what are they accusing these people of?
Well, it's a meditative orgasmic practice for women, and it does involve touching in a sexual way, but also it has roots in Tantra, ancient Hindu, ancient Buddhist practices. It's all voluntary. It's all, consenting adults. It's all women of age. But in the woke mentality now, if you give consent on day one, you can revoke consent on day 3 or year 3, and then say that you were abused. And that's really been the theory of the prosecution. It's very much in line with what you see on college campuses now, that yes doesn't necessarily mean yes, and I can withdraw the yes later on, even if I'm a consenting adult. So we would now put at risk, for example, religious practices like nuns and priests, or traditional Jewish communities where you give your time, your energy freely, and then maybe later on you become a little disenchanted. You look back and you say, well, I really didn't give consent. I'm going to go to a prosecutor and have these people prosecuted. It's a scary, scary road that the Biden administration went down. Unfortunately, the case was tried just after President Trump took over, and the new administration really didn't have a chance to look at it in its totality.
So I've heard this a lot, in not just religious freedom, but in political oppression, going after enemies overseas and domestically, that cases that the Biden administration started, but the Trump administration, even though they're nefarious cases, really hasn't come in and stopped them. Is this kind of the situation?
They've tried, but it's tough. I worked on the transition. Pam Bondi is a dear friend of mine, and she's doing a tremendous job. She's working so hard along with another friend, Todd Blanche. But they are drinking through fire hoses, multiple fire hoses, and they've, it's hard to catch up with all of the demons that the Biden administration let loose. It's a full-time job and then some. And one other thing I have to mention, and I've seen it. If you work for Trump, you're blacklisted by traditional legal groups, traditional big law. So you're basically, once you work for President Trump, and I've seen it myself, you then become ostracized by the so-called polite legal community. You're out on your own. So it's hard to attract people, young people, to come into the department. But DOJ is doing an outstanding job, and they're doing the best they can.
Sounds like a big opportunity for someone like Trump to build the Trump law firm and provide a place for those people.
Well, he kind of did during the criminal cases that were brought. No large law firm in the country would defend him. Can you imagine that? No large law firm. So he had to put together, along with his aide, Boris Epstein, who did a tremendous job, small firm lawyers like myself. Todd had to leave his law firm, and others. And we all, created our own law firm. John Sauer, who's Solicitor General now, we all got together and said, listen, we're going to take a risk in our professional lives, but we don't care. We're defending someone who needs a defense. And similarly, these women who are facing 15, 20 years in jail for consensual spiritual and sexual practice are it's an abomination.
Wow. Interesting. Well, are we going to get some accountability in the judicial system? I'm hearing all kind of judicial malfeasance down in Florida and other places. But what do you think? I mean, are people going to be held accountable?
I do think that. I saw lawfare in a gruesome way, all being organized out of the White House, the Biden White House, and talk about weaponization and talk about going after your political enemies. These commentators now, it's laughable for me, because what did Joe Biden do? He said to his Justice Department, I want to make sure that President Trump never again takes power, and I'm going to use every lever that I can. He created 4 criminal cases to deny President Trump the ability to run for office. Can you imagine that? And President Trump could have easily walked away from all of them by saying, you know what, no mas, I give up. I'm not going to run for president. But you know what he did? He said, fight, fight, fight. Do I think there'll be accountability? I do. It's going to take a while. We're going to have to be patient. I would also say that it's going to have to take a generation of right looking. When I say right, I don't mean just politically right. I mean like rational and correct of an administration over a generation to get new judges and new prosecutors and new lawyers in the legal system. Because right now, our criminal justice and our justice system is radicalized by the left from top to bottom.
Last question, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were involved in getting the immunity case for Trump through. Am I correct about that? Or part of that?
I worked on the J6 case, which was the one that they brought in Washington, D.C. to disqualify the president from running. And from the very beginning, we asserted the immunity issue, along with John Sauer, who was our appellate counsel, and Will Scharf, just excellent lawyers, who argued the case in front of the Supreme Court. I had the trial level, and we won, thankfully. And if we hadn't won, President Trump would have been in the middle of a criminal trial during the campaign that would have probably lasted the entire campaign in Washington, D.C., all because Joe Biden did not want to see him be president.
Wow. Anything else, John, you want to get out?
No, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak my mind, but it's really important that your audience, who is very, very knowledgeable, understands the deep distress our legal system is in. And thankfully, we have terrific leadership at the top that's trying their best to change that.
John, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.
Celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7. I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7 that for a limited time you can try our 3-pack absolutely free. Or check out our Percale bed sheets. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. Every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88, even the queens and kings. Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.
Pandemic, we can never be caught unprepared again. And so many Americans, when COVID hit, they had nothing in the house. Stores were shut down and doctors' offices were shut down. And even if doctors prescribed drugs, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, pharmacists wouldn't fill the prescriptions. That was a nightmare.
Now the situation is much worse. We have these horrible supply chain problems. In our emergency medical kit at the Wellness Company, we have 8 prescription drugs that are all potentially life-saving.
Most people who died with COVID, they died in the hospital because they didn't receive early treatment.
Every American family should have one of these.
I can tell you the Wellness Company kit is the answer.
When Johnny comes marching home again, hurrah, hurrah, we'll give him a hearty welcome then, hurrah, hurrah. Oh, the men will cheer, the boys will shout, the ladies, they will all turn out and we'll all...
Welcome back to the SCIF. I hope you enjoyed our show today. I want to shout out to a few of our sponsors. One, Nucleo Boost. This is the package for the powder. I swear by this. I've been traveling like mad. I hit 6 countries in the last couple of weeks, also several states. And, you run into all kind of stuff on the plane and everything. And yeah, I got attacked by some virus, but this really got me through it in a way that didn't, shut me down. And they also have the capsule form, which I take with me when I'm traveling, but I use the powder at home. You can go to cdmnutrition.com and check that out. I highly recommend Nucleo Boost. It's the only supplement you need once a day in your yogurt or your smoothie, or take the capsule. Check out the prescriptions at cdmnutrition.com. They're cheaper. But I can't say enough about this product. John B. Wells and his team, Dr. Waterman, developed it. It's nutrition at the micro level, everything your cell needs. Think of it as filling the potholes in your body. And check it out, cdmnutrition.com. Also, if you're looking for a gift for Christmas, Paying the Price, the untold story of the Iranian resistance. There's a lot of talk about Iran. This is not going away. How we can take down the regime from the inside without, starting a war. I spent a lot of time with the Mujahideen Khalq at their base in Albania and in Paris, their home base. Interesting book. If you have a friend or a family member or that someone who has everything, who likes geopolitics and enjoys history, also check out Paying the Price, the untold story of the Iranian resistance. I believe there's signed copies at historyofbooks.com, but it's available anywhere books are sold. And also, if you have financial issues, David Cross, our financial advisor, check him out. Death in the family, planning for your retirement, sale of a business, divorce. He's the guy to call. So us-am.com, US Asset Management, David Cross. Check him out. We'll see you tomorrow. We got a big show tomorrow. Thanks for joining us today. Thank you for joining us on the SCIF.